While many celebrities are known for their talent and success in the entertainment industry, they also have their own unique and often bizarre hobbies that may surprise you. These celebrities have interests that go far beyond the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. So join me, I'm going to explore the top 15 most bizarre celebrity hobbies. Let's begin. Number 15. The Beehives of Beyoncé. Beyoncé is a singer, actor, and philanthropist, and has been a household name since the 1990s. And while she may have one of the world's longest and most impressive resumes, she does partake in one hobby that's creating a bit of buzz: beekeeping. How appropriate for the queen bee, huh? Well, when the world came to a halt in 2020, many people shifted their energies to new things, and for Beyoncé Knowles, it was bees. In a 2020 interview with Vogue magazine, Beyoncé said she had 2 beehives at home. And while that may not sound like much, the megastar has said that these 2 hives alone house a whopping 80,000 hard-working honeybees, supplying her and her family with hundreds of jars worth of honey a year. That's a sweet deal. Beyoncé was also said 2 of her children were born with some pretty difficult allergies, and thanks to the bees' honey, many of those ailments have either lightened or disappeared completely. Honey isn't just a naturally delicious treat, it also has some incredible healing properties, and it's been used for centuries by cultures around the world to cure various ailments. The nutrients and antioxidants help reactivate oxygen in the body, restoring cells and healing the body from the inside. Some will even tell you that natural honey has profound anti-aging properties. Maybe that's why she's able to look so timeless. Number 14. Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson has already gone down as one of the greatest boxers of all time. The former heavyweight champ had 58 bouts during his professional career, with 44 of them ending in his opponent's knockout. That's a 75% knockout rate. But the fighter has a more sensitive side as well. He loves birds, specifically pigeons. But despite what you may think, Tyson has been into pigeons well before his time in the ring. He took a liking to birds at a very young age, taking them as pets and taking care of them. It's even rumored that the first punch he ever threw was over one of his birds, when an older kid allegedly killed one of Tyson's pet pigeons. He decked him right in the face, avenging his beloved pet. Despite being one of the best American athletes in history, Tyson has had a pretty rough life. It's not uncommon for humans to find meaning, solace, and love in household pets like dogs and cats. Tyson just found these feelings in pigeons. He absolutely loves his flock, and they teach him a level of zen that boxing doesn't always provide. As of 2019, Iron Mike's pigeon coop housed more than 70 pigeons that he and his family tend to every single day, and he knows each bird individually. The man has become a bit of an expert, even giving talks and classes about how to care for the birds. The hobby may be a bit bizarre, but it's also quite beautiful. Number 13. Tracy Morgan's fish tanks. Tracy Morgan is undoubtedly one of the funniest people on the planet, so it makes sense that he's got one of the goofiest hobbies around. Morgan lives the high life in his New Jersey mansion with extravagant fish tanks all around the interior. One tank is literally built into his pool table that houses 2 incredible alligator gar. Then when you go to the back of the property, you'll see his 20,000-gallon tank that's home to a gorgeous coral reef and a whopping 8 sharks, who all manage to live in harmony without tearing each other apart. Can it get any crazier than that? Well, when it comes to Tracy Morgan, yeah. The crown jewel of his home aquarium collection has got to be the Jaws-themed tank inside. Comparatively speaking, it is on the smaller side, holding just 2,700 gallons of water, but it's still big enough to house 6 of his sharks. But it's the look of the tank that makes it so amazing, with a giant floor-to-ceiling shark painting that looks like it's not just about to eat the entire tank and the fish inside, but a huge boat as well. This tank is so well known and so hilarious that it's made a few appearances on the television show Tanked over the years. Having a private aquarium is cool, but having a great sense of humor to go with it is even better. Number 12. Steve Cohen's trophy art. Steve Cohen is a hedge fund manager in New York with about $24.5 billion in assets under him. The guy's got a lot of money, and he certainly knows how to spend it. He's got an incredibly impressive art collection in his home, but while not an artist himself, Cohen refers to his collection as trophy art. That is, he buys incredibly expensive pieces just so he can have them. What started as buying works from Monet to Manet, Cohen purchased a David Geffen painting for $52 million, a Picasso piece for $150 million, and a Jeff Koons sculpture for $91.1 million, the most expensive piece of art ever sold by a living artist. But Cohen turned the dial up to 11 in 2004. The hedge fund manager bought a horrifying piece of contemporary art, a 14-foot tiger shark perfectly preserved in alcohol and formaldehyde. Why? Well, ask him. This pickled shark was originally purchased for $93 grand in 1992 by art mogul Charles Saatchi and titled The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living. But by the time it caught Cohen's eye, the price shot up dramatically. When Cohen bought the piece for an undisclosed amount, media sources reported he paid anywhere between $8 to $12 million for the apex predator. It may be a pretty penny for an ugly installation, but Steve Cohen is known for sinking his teeth into contemporary art, and when he smells blood in the water, he always goes in for the kill, no matter the dollar amount. Number 11. Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton, she's amassed quite the buzz for herself over the years, being one of the first people famous for simply being famous. But as she got older, the heiress cooled down a bit, becoming a bit more grounded in reality. Now, the former TV star takes a little more time for herself out of the limelight. So you'd think that someone with a net worth of $300 million would mean having some pretty extravagant hobbies. But for Hilton, that simply isn't the case. One of Hilton's favorite pastimes is frog hunting. That is, going around her multiple ranches, finding frogs, placing them in her basket, and then releasing them back into the wild. With ranches just outside of Oakland, California, another in Nevada, and her own private island, there are sure to be plenty of frogs for her to hang out with. Then there are the rumors that Hilton is a massive vintage radio enthusiast, going around to estate sales and antique stores hunting for old AM/FM receivers and parts, especially in Europe. Seeing as how she became a DJ later in life, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Plus, restoring old wares is a great way to remember to slow things down while earning a new appreciation for how things work. Number 10. Katy Perry's hair collection. Katy Perry has donned dozens and dozens of hairstyles and wigs throughout her career. From long jet black hair to a bubblegum pink do, the pop star's done it all. But her love for hair doesn't stop with the follicles on her head. During a radio interview, Perry said that she keeps some interesting things in her purse, locks of hair from fellow celebrities. In this specific interview, she stated she's got strands from Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift with her. So how did she get that hair? Well, the pop star shared a dressing room with both Cyrus and Swift during the Grammy Awards, and all she did was ask. Ask and you shall receive, I guess. The fellow singers obliged, and Perry quite literally wrapped their respective singers' hair in a bow and shoved them in her purse. And who knows who else's hair is living in Perry's purse. Number 9. Bill Gates' book collection. Billionaire Bill Gates is known for being an avid reader, claiming to read an astounding 50 books a year. Most of us may read a small handful in that same stretch, but Gates also owns one of the coolest yet strangest books in history, the Codex Leicester. The Codex Leicester, or the Codex Hammer, is a collection of scientific writings by the great Leonardo da Vinci. Obviously, something like this fetched a high price as it changed hands over the centuries, but it was given its current name in 1717 after it was purchased by Thomas Cook, the Earl of Leicester. The manuscript currently holds the record for the 5th highest sales price of any book and was sold to billionaire Bill Gates at a Christie's auction on November 11, 1994 in New York for a whopping $30.8 million. If you were to adjust that number for inflation, you're looking at a price tag of well over $56 million today. The historic notebook is leather-bound and consists of 36 sheets of just 29 by 22 centimeters in size. The manuscript doesn't take a form of a single linear script, but is rather a mixture of Leonardo's observations and theories on astronomy, properties of water, rocks, fossils, air, and celestial light. You know, just the typical thoughts of a genius. But don't think that this old codex is just sitting on Gates' bookcase next to computer programming for dummies. The Codex Leicester has been unbound, with each page individually mounted between glass panes. It's put on public display once a year in a different city around the world for the 500th anniversary of Da Vinci's death. The Codex Leicester was put on display from October 29, 2018 to January 20, 2019 in Florence. Bill Gates is also known for being an avid reader, so it makes perfect sense that he would nerd out over a codex. Number 8. Angelina Jolie. During the 1990s and early 2000s, it felt like Angelina Jolie was everywhere. She was a Hollywood wild child and just a great actress. Just ask her Oscar. But she's had an incredible life too, garnering money, accolades, and philanthropic achievements all along the way. And she's not even 50 yet. She's done a lot in a short amount of time. She once studied to become a funeral director and an undertaker. She's an American, Bosnian, and Cambodian citizen, and is even a licensed pilot. But as if being inspired by a former film role, Jolie feels like a real-life Lara Croft thanks to one of her bizarre hobbies. She's an avid dagger collector. According to an interview in 2008 with W magazine, Jolie first began to sharpen her skills at the tender age of 11. Her mom got into collecting, and she's been hooked ever since, amassing an impressive collection. Jolie has been known to go on the hunt for specific knives and can be often found pursuing through specialty shops. She's even passed on her love for the artistry down to her son Maddox, and the young man has a small collection of his own. In all, the actress, writer, director has been collecting daggers and knives for nearly 4 decades. So the real question is, does she know how to use them? Well, seeing as how Jolie has starred in so many butt-kicking action films, it's a safe bet to say that she knows what she's doing. Number 7. Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson has been in some pretty nerd-centric roles during her long acting career. She's been in Clerks 2, Sin City, she's voiced Wonder Woman, and even played a Jedi. But there's more to it than the money. Rosario Dawson is known for being a pretty big nerd in her life outside of acting. In fact, if you've been to San Diego Comic-Con, then you might have rubbed shoulders with her on the floor. Dawson is a huge Trekkie that is a massive fan of Star Trek. She goes to cons on her own time and her own dime, and has even been heard busting out some Klingon both at conventions and on talk shows. For those who aren't in the know, Klingon is a fictional language spoken by the warmongering race of Klingons from the Star Trek universe. The language itself is fully fleshed out, with the Klingon dictionary being released in 1985 and classes being taught around the US. While Dawson probably didn't enroll in any of those courses, the language is more accessible than ever, and it's included in the Duolingo app. Dawson has said in multiple interviews that her ultimate dream as an actor would be being cast in a new iteration of Star Trek, ideally playing the part of a Q, a dimension-hopping being and beloved recurring character who has mastered both space and time. Here's hoping. Number 6. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has often been called America's dad, and what better a hobby for a dad to have than collecting old typewriters? They do take up a lot less space than vintage automobiles, that's for sure. Tom Hanks told the New York Times that he's been collecting typewriters since he was a teenager. So just for some perspective, Tom Hanks is 66 years old in 2023, so he's been snagging these relics of writers since the 60s. While he's certainly cut back since then, there was a time when he had hundreds of typewriters in his collection at once. Maybe Mr. Hanks understands something that the rest of us, especially younger folk, just can't understand. In a world where typing is quite literally constantly at your fingertips, autocorrect does a lot of the heavy lifting, and emojis can convey complex thoughts in a simple way. Typewriters remind Hanks of a slower, simpler time. If you wanted to type something out then, not only did you need a typewriter, but you needed the paper and the ink ribbon. And when that ran dry, there was no 2-day shipping to come to the rescue. Plus, many of these old typewriters were handmade, making each one unique in its own right. Hanks has also said that as he got older and moved around more and more, he had to get rid of a lot of physical things that he owned. It can be tough when you have no physical possessions to keep you grounded. Collecting typewriters is a way for Hanks to write his history in a way that he sees fit. Now, the only question is, with collecting such clunky items, where does he keep them all? Number 5. James Cameron's Deep-Sea Challenger. Alright, it should come as no secret that filmmaker James Cameron's got a lot of money just laying around. But he's also got one of the most unique hobbies in the world, deep-sea exploration. Cameron spent $8 million on his submarine, the Deep-Sea Challenger, and while it is an incredibly expensive vessel, a number like that is just a drop in the bucket. Cameron's Deep-Sea Challenger was able to descend to depths of well over 35,000 feet. The vessel is less than 4 feet wide, and it's so jam-packed with equipment that Cameron had to sit with his knees bent and could barely move from the sheer lack of space. It's truly amazing that someone with so much money chose to brave the deep himself instead of paying a deep-sea robot to do it for him. But I guess that is the dedication of a good filmmaker. The Challenger's circuit boards were especially designed just for the vessel and incorporated over 180 systems of things like sonar and batteries, and the 1,100-pound ballast weights to keep it submerged. And while the bells and whistles of the Deep-Sea Challenger may not be as exciting as some of the other entries we've seen so far, it's very easy to see where all that money is gone, because when you dive as deep as Cameron does, the safety of the pilot becomes far more important than comfort and luxury. But it's clearly worth it, because Cameron used the submarine to set the record for the world's deepest solo dive to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Number 4. Rosie ODonnell. Step into the office of Rosie ODonnell's Manhattan apartment, and you'll find the walls adorned with photos of family and friends and former guest stars of her talk show like Madonna, Meg Ryan, and Liz Tyler. She's even got a handwritten note from Barbra Streisand up on the wall. Then there are the rows of wooden built-in shelves covered in McDonald's Happy Meal toys. But don't touch them, because even her sister Maureen has said in interviews that if you do touch them, move them even just a quarter of an inch, Rosie will know and she'll have some words with you. O'Donnell's been collecting Happy Meal toys for years, so naturally she has quite a few rarities in the mix. In all, she's accumulated more than 2,500 toys, which she began collecting during her stand-up comedy tours in the mid-1980s. When asked about her odd hobby, she's gone on to say that they simply remind her of childhood. But O'Donnell doesn't even need to eat the McDonald's to get the latest toys. The company, as well as die-hard O'Donnell fans, will gift her the new toys as they're released. One of the more unique toys on her shelf is all 101 Dalmatians, which she confesses she didn't need to track down on her own. But Happy Meal toys aren't the only pieces of childhood memorabilia the comic keeps in her office. Her larger toy collection includes the original 1960 Chatty Cathy doll, a Mrs. Beasley from Family Affair, an original Kitty Carryall doll from the Brady Bunch given to her by Maureen McCormick, and hosts of figures from such classic TV shows as Star Trek and I Dream of Jeannie. Number 3. Mila Kunis. When World of Warcraft hit the shelves in 2004, it took the world by storm. Millions of gamers everywhere flocked to the store so they could create mages, warriors, hunters, and paladins, and go on raids with people from all over the world. You never know who you were playing and slaying with on the other side of the screen. But there was a chance that you fought alongside Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis is a self-proclaimed nerd and recovering WoW addict. The actress has said in multiple interviews that she ran about the realm as a gnome mage, decked out with pink pigtails and doled out ice and fire magic during her many quests and campaigns in Stormwind. Her gnome's name? Captain Janeway, inspired by the captain of Star Trek Voyager. But like so many players of WoW, Kunis eventually had to call it quits. She became so involved in her time in the digital world that her agent had to create a character, log in, and message Kunis through the game's server just to get a hold of her. Luckily for fans of The Family Guy and That 70s Show, Kunis eventually lost interest in the game, officially logging off after a few years. But the question still remains, will the pink-haired, fire and ice missile-slinging Captain Janeway ever return to Azeroth? Number 2. Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart was a rock icon and household name in the 1970s, but there's a lot more to the singer than just his music. The British rocker has been collecting model trains since he was a kid, and the hobby lasted well into his old age. In 2019, he showed off his magnum opus, a 1,500-square-foot replica of post-war Chicago and New York railway systems. He named his labor of love Grand Street and Three River City, and his photorealistic creation took 23 painstaking years to build, with much of that work taking place while on tour. Rod Stewart's 1:87 scale railway features 5-foot skyscrapers, period locomotives, a river with a ship, a power station, and tiny little passengers in the appropriate period attire. It takes up almost the entire 3rd floor of his Beverly Hills mansion. The details here are as breathtaking as they are painstaking. Stewart reported that the idea of the railway model and cityscape came from the tracks near his boyhood North London home, and that 90% of the work was done himself. Stewart took parts of the model on tour with him, gluing and painting parts of the cityscape and skyscrapers in particular in an extra hotel room. It's certainly not the worst thing a rock star has done in a hotel on the road. He said he was given a toy railway as a child and then developed the hobby. But when he asked his father for a toy rail station too, his father allegedly gave him a guitar instead. And the rest, as they say, is music history. Number 1. Going to space. During the Cold War, the United States and the former Soviet Union entered the space race, where, for better or worse, both countries pushed themselves and the other to the limit of technology and engineering to see who could reach the stars first. There was great success on both sides as both the Soviet Union and the United States continued to set the bar higher and higher for the other. Nowadays, it would seem that billionaires are duking it out to see which one of them can make it to space first. It's an odd race for sure, but it's already well underway. Billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson have poured billions of dollars into their respective personal spaceflight programs. Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic. Bezos in particular coughed up over $5.5 billion for 4 minutes in suborbital space in a cowboy hat aboard his Blue Origin vessel, only for Branson to do the same just a few days before. But what sets this pretentious space race apart from the past is these competing billionaires are not inventing new technology. Instead, it's a race to see who can buy better parts and better engineers. In a world with massive heat waves, hunger, and natural disasters, it would seem these billionaires would rather turn their tails up towards the vast nothingness of space. But even multi-millionaires are quite literally hoping to get in on the space trend, with celebrities like Ashton Kutcher putting down $20,000 deposit on a $200,000 ticket to space, and Katy Perry buying a full ticket for the same price for her husband Russell Brand before their divorce. Sending people to space used to be a way to learn more about a world outside of our own and put some perspective into where we fit in the grand scheme of the universe. But nowadays, it seems it's become the most bizarre hobby taken on by rich celebrities. I'll see you next time. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge. Thank you to our channel members.